We are now at time to transition to the public comments and discussion section. And I think we are going to, and so I'll just kind of remind everybody when presenting, we would ask you to declare potential conflicts of interest before delivering your remarks. We will also show the information that you've declared on the screen. And we are starting with Dr. Jason Brett from Novo Nordisk. And I think there's something about his Zoom link, but I think he's able to speak. Is that correct?
Yes, Jason, I'm here. I can hear you. Can you
Oh,
see
great.
me
We're
and hear me?
happy to have you. So feel
Thank
free
you.
to go ahead.
Jason Brett, I'm the principal medical head at Novo Nordisk in the US, and my disclosure is I am a full-time employee at Novo Nordisk. So Novo Nordisk is committed to helping improve the lives of people living with obesity by changing how the world perceives, prevents, and treats obesity, including the discovery and development of safe and effective medications. As the manufacturer of semaglutide, Novo Nordisk greatly appreciates the opportunity to be involved in this review process. As recognized by ICER, obesity is a serious, complex, multifactorial chronic disease that can increase the risk of other conditions, including but not limited to type 2 diabetes, hypertension, metabolic dysfunction associated steatohepatitis, select cancers, osteoarthritis, obstructive sleep apnea, and cardiovascular diseases. Obesity also incurs a substantial and increasing economic burden on the U.S. healthcare system and society at large. Overall, Novo Nordisk agrees with ICER's comparative and cost-effectiveness evaluations. The interventions were found to be clinically effective and highly cost-effective at well below the willingness to pay thresholds of $100,000 per quality-adjusted life year gained when compared to lifestyle modification alone. Despite this, Novo Nordisk has some concerns regarding certain assumptions in the model. Firstly, we are concerned that ICER arbitrarily applied hazard ratios for cardiovascular outcomes from the SELECT trial for semaglutide to tirzepatide. The SELECT trial found that the addition of once-weekly semaglutide, 2.4 milligrams, to standard of care was superior to placebo in reducing the incidence of major adverse cardiovascular events. There is currently no evidence to indicate a class effect for all GLP-1 and GIP receptor agonists when it comes to cardiovascular benefit. The recent real-world STEER and REACH studies further add to the evidence base on the cardioprotective effects of semaglutide. Therefore, we maintain that ICER should systematically consider this evidence and not assume equivalence between semaglutide and tirzepatide. Secondly, ICER incorporated liver cirrhosis outcomes, but excluded MASH. Liver histology in MASH predicts progression to cirrhosis, and fibrosis is the strongest predictor of adverse clinical outcomes, including liver-related deaths. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved indication for the treatment of MASH with moderate to advanced liver fibrosis in adults. And MASH is a patient-important outcome. Exclusion of MASH will underestimate the clinical and economic benefits that semaglutide provides. Therefore, we continue to assert that ICER should include resolution of steatohepatitis and improvement in liver fibrosis in patients with MASH as an outcome in the analysis. Thirdly, ICER's model incorporated weight loss based on the highest dose of each treatment because clinical practice typically targets either the maximal effective dose, unless limited by tolerability, or the dose that results in appropriate weight loss, if lower than the maximal dose. However, various real-world evidence studies have shown that only a minority of patients receive the maximum 15 milligram dose of tirzepatide in real-world clinical practice. We therefore assert that ICER should consider all indicated maintenance doses of tirzepatide in its model. Alongside this, recently published evidence from CEPAC also underlines the clinical efficacy of a higher 7.2 milligram dose of injectable semaglutide, which we recommend ICER to explore. Collectively, Novo Nordisk contends that ICER should consider how the respective doses of both injectable semaglutide and tirzepatide are used in real-world clinical practice and ensure they are accurately reflected in the model. Lastly, while ICER emphasizes that these obesity medications were found to be clinically beneficial and highly cost-effective, ICER's budget impact analysis raises concerns about affordability based on an $880 million threshold. Additionally, ICER's assumption
Dr.
that
Brett,
90...
we just, I appreciate these comments. We just have to, we're over time. So maybe just a few seconds to wrap up, please.
All right, so let me wrap up with, we disagree with the way ICER has assessed budget impact for obesity medications because of the consequences of such an approach for patients. Instead, we believe affordability should be considered using a more long-term, holistic, and societal perspective that reflects the clinical and economic impacts of obesity and the downstream complications.
Thank you so much
ICER.
for joining us. Thank you for your thoughtful comments. And just given the nature of the comments, I probably should defer to the SMT lead, Dr. Rind, or the modeling team with Dr. Lee.
Sure. Let me just run through those quickly. So first, in terms of MASH, MASH is a classic surrogate outcome. It almost never causes patient symptoms. Maybe it's severe fibrosis. People are a little bit tired. But just like saying, gee, what you should be looking at is giving us credit for reducing cholesterol, rather than giving you credit for reducing MIs, we're giving you credit for reducing cirrhosis, not giving you credit for reducing a risk factor for cirrhosis. So that's what's going on there. In terms of the cardiovascular benefits, tirzepatide causes more weight loss and, according to clinical experts, has fewer side effects than semaglutide, and yet only got a promising but inconclusive rating against semaglutide exactly because we're not sure of the cardiovascular benefits. For modeling reasons, we did use the same 20% reduction, and we can't know for sure that that's right, but it's not like we don't know that tirzepatide reduces cardiovascular outcomes. It did better than another GLP-1 dulaglutide, which itself has reduced cardiovascular outcomes, admittedly studied in diabetes, but that's the data we have, and we make our best assumptions when we're modeling. It's perfectly fair to argue with them, but we have to make some assumptions, and we will hear, I'm sure, from other manufacturers that they think that we should have assumed greater cardiovascular benefits. In terms of dosing, it's really hard to know what to do with real-world use of dosing in people who got to their desired weight loss at a lower dose. The pricing of the drugs is all the same. So picking a lower dose and what actually happens in the real world may be that people achieve the weight loss they wanted at a lower dose, and whether they get the same cardiovascular benefits or greater cardiovascular benefits or smaller cardiovascular benefits, we don't know. And we've talked a lot about the budget impact threshold. Don't look at it as us saying, you can't charge more than this. Look at it as us ringing a bell saying there's a budget impact problem because this is a great drug that needs to be used in a lot of people, and there are affordability problems. And this is a really easy one for us because there are already affordability problems.
Thank you for that response from ICER. I think Dr. Jason Schwartz has a question, and he's promised it to be quick because we are 5 minutes behind.
A very quick question. Thanks, Jason. I wanted to ask Novo Nordisk and the other manufacturer, if we have a chance to hear from them, about long-term safety data. Clearly, that's going to be an issue. We're going to need more data given the number of patients who will be taking these drugs and the length of time. Can you say a little bit about what your manufacturer is doing to help generate the long-term safety data that will be helpful going forward?
And we're about to hear from Lily, so let me just direct that to Novo.
Yes.
You're on mute, Dr. Brett. I made this mistake earlier, so I
Yeah,
know.
sorry about that. Yeah. I would say, in the select, and I think this was alluded to earlier, in the select trial, we have up to 5 years of exposure where long-term safety does indeed look good. Obviously, individual decisions and individual benefit risk analyses are very important. And that's why shared decision-making between healthcare professional and patient are so important. But I would say based on what we have so far, long-term safety is looking good. And then we continue to monitor, with ongoing pharmacovigilance and continuing safety monitoring. So that's what I would say at this time.
Thank you so much. And with that, we are going to transition to the next public comment, which is Tracy Sims from Eli Lilly. And I just warn you in advance, I'm going to interrupt at 5 minutes. And I'm sorry, I know it sounds rude, but I just want to sort of give a warning there. We really look forward to your comments and appreciate your participation in the public comments.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Tracy Sims. I'm Executive Director for Corporate Affairs at Eli Lilly and Company, and I'm a full-time employee of the corporation. ICER leadership, ICER staff, and members of the New England CEPAC, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address you today. For nearly 150 years, Lilly has worked to develop and deliver safe, effective, and acceptable medications for people around the world. For too long, obesity and overweight have been stigmatized. Stigma is perpetuated by misconceptions that excess body weight is a result of personal failure or lack of willpower. Misconceptions that ignore factors that contribute to developing and perpetuating obesity. Combating stigma is essential to improving care, and Lilly commends ICER for bringing attention to this issue regarding obesity care generally and obesity management medications like Zepbound. Zepbound is a first-in-class dual GIP, GLP-1 receptor agonist indicated in combination with reduced calorie diet and increased physical activity to reduce excess body weight and maintain weight reduction long-term in adults with obesity or adults with overweight in the presence of at least one weight-related comorbid condition. It is also indicated in combination with a reduced calorie diet and increased physical activity to treat moderate to severe obstructive sleep apnea in adults with obesity. Across trials from Lilly's SURMOUNT clinical development program, tirzepatide, the active pharmaceutical ingredient in Zepbound, has demonstrated positive effects on weight reduction and maintenance. In the SURMOUNT-1 trial, adults lost an average of 20.9% of their body weight with the highest dose of Zepbound at 72 weeks. That average weight loss was sustained for participants who continued through that trial's 3-year treatment period. In SURMOUNT-5, a head-to-head phase 3b open-label trial that evaluated the safety and efficacy of Zepbound compared to injectable semaglutide, the active pharmaceutical ingredient in Wegovy, Zepbound achieved an average weight reduction of 20.2% compared to 13.7% with Wegovy, reflecting 47% greater relative weight loss at the maximum tolerated dose. In its report, ICER acknowledges that Zepbound is highly cost-effective and that it is superior to injectable and oral semaglutide on weight loss outcomes. ICER found Zepbound to be the most cost-effective of the 3 scoped interventions, and it is the only intervention that meets ICER's health benefit price benchmark at established list and estimated net price. On these points, Lilly is aligned. We recognize the unavailability of peer-reviewed results from SURPASS-CVOT, a head-to-head phase 3 trial that compared tirzepatide to dulaglutide in adults with type 2 diabetes and established cardiovascular disease, drove some hesitancy in assessing tirzepatide's direct effect on cardiovascular risk in ICER's review. Journal publication is forthcoming, and Lilly is excited to further highlight findings from SURPASS-CVOT. Similarly, we look forward to completion of the ongoing event-based SURMOUNT-MMO trial. SURMOUNT-MMO is the first outcome trial of an incretin-based obesity management medication that assesses both primary and secondary cardiovascular disease prevention, and it will provide evidence of tirzepatide's impact on morbidity and mortality in adults with obesity or overweight without diabetes compared to placebo. It is estimated to complete in late 2027. As noted in this review, obesity management medications like Zepbound are associated with increased rates of adverse events compared to placebo. While ICER's report highlights side effects are generally mild to moderate, and that they tend to resolve with continued use or dose adjustment. Serious events do occur. The most common adverse reactions reported equal to or greater than 5% of patients treated with Zepbound are nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, constipation, abdominal pain, dyspepsia, injection site reactions, fatigue, hypersensitivity reactions, irritation, hair loss, and GERD. Lilly has taken a vocal stance that Zepbound should not be used for cosmetic weight loss, and we believe risk-benefit conversations should always take place between individual patients and their clinician. In closing, I'd like to reaffirm Lilly's commitment to developing and delivering treatment options that meet the diverse needs of people living with obesity or overweight. We share ICER's view that recently approved and pipeline obesity medications like Zepbound have the potential to deliver health and economic benefits, not just for individual patients, but for the healthcare system and society. We remain committed to working with stakeholders to ensure broader access to all therapies. On behalf of Lilly, thank you for your time and attention to these remarks.
Thank you, and you were just on time, so I appreciate that. We have time maybe for one question, if anyone has one, before lunch.
I'm happy to come back to Dr. Schwartz's question as it was directed
that
to
would
me
be
as
lovely.
well, if
Thank
that's
you. I
okay.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Schwartz, thank you. That's a very important question. And I think as you and many other experts know, incretin-based therapies have been available for about 20 years now. So as we look back historically, there is an interesting base of data. Next, of course, our multi-year clinical trials provide a good base of data. As my colleague at Novo noted, we also apply pharmacovigilance in the utilization of our medications. And as I just noted, the SURMOUNT-MMO study is a 15,000 patient, 5-year study that will read out on over a dozen endpoints. And of course, we'll be reviewing patient experience and overall side effects from that. So I think we have a nice previous line. We have clinical trial data, we have pharmacovigilance, and for us, SURMOUNT-MMO, a 5-year, 15,000 patient study.
Thank you for that. And thank you for the representatives from both manufacturers for your thoughtful public comments. And my understanding is you're both participating in the policy roundtable later. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for participating, because I do think that's such an important part of our process to establish consensus about how novel therapeutics are used in clinical practice. So we appreciate your time. I think our third public commenter is not here, so we will head to lunch, and we will rejoin at 12:45 for the clinical evidence and value votes. Talk to you then.